Hello everybody. Today we'll be looking at absolute referencing versus relative cell referencing and how they affect the formulas. What we have here is wages to the left on the x-axis and hours worked on the y-axis. And what we want to look at is ultimately, what $15 an hour times 10 hours is worth, and then just kind of figure that out for a whole little graph section right here. Now, you could go through manually and go equals, or you could just, plain and simple do 10 times 15, 15 times whatever, 15, and you could get the numbers that way. And that's a good way to fact check it and make sure that the formulas are actually working properly. But that's a very labor intensive process and it's going to consume a lot of time. So what we want to do is build a grid that references the wages multiplied by the hours. And the way we want to complete this is by ensuring that we input a formula that's accurately tracking the rows and columns and referencing to the correct cells. So we could ultimately go like this. So C3 multiplication asterisk multiplied by B4 equals 150. And then most people would just assume that, yes, we could just drag that across, right? But look what happens when we drag that across. You'll notice that obviously 15 hours times $15 an hour does not equal $2,250. And most certainly 25 hours times $15 an hour does not equal $1.1 million. So what went wrong here? Well, if we double click on the cell, we'll notice that we're not actually referencing $25 an hour times our $15 an hour. What's happening is that when we originally input the formula into here, we didn't reference these cells to be absolute. So as our formula shifted over, it started shifting the column over as well too, and that's exactly what we don't want. So how can we prevent that and effectively get the spreadsheet done in a minimal amount of time? Well, what we want to do is we always want to start off with our equal sign, do that C3 multiplied by B4, but what we want to do before we move on and copy it is we want to fix the cells. So what are we trying to fix here? What are we trying to focus on as we move over? Well, we want to focus on the number of hours worked. So let's go into here, and what are we referencing on that line? We're referencing C3 as our hours worked. So we want the column to shift over, but we always want these numbers to be referenced on the third row. So let's go into our formula, and before C, which is the column, we want to put a dollar sign. And what happens when we put that dollar sign is that as we copy and paste this cell over, it's going to ensure that we continue. We want to put that dollar sign before the 3, which is the row, because as we move down with our formula, we always want this to track the row, but we're going to need the column shift from C to D to E to F to G. Reversely, when we're going down the schedule like this, we always want to make sure that column B is fixed, but our rows are going to be changing as we go down. So once again, we're going to put a dollar sign before the B to make sure that our numbers don't change. So let's see what happens when we do this. Well, you'll notice that everything's working pretty perfectly. We're not getting that insane $1.1 million. We're actually getting what we really want, which is 25 hours times $15 an hour. And the reason it stays perfect is because, once again, we use those dollar signs to reference back to the row that we wanted, which was row 3, and we also reference back to the column that we wanted, which was B, but we allowed the rows to move down because we didn't fix that dollar sign. So the reason that's important is because when we start to move vertically, it works perfectly because we fixed that original formula with that original column. And if now we need to copy these across, you'll see that everything is working according to schedule. 25 hours times $20 an hour comes out to $500. Conversely, 30 hours times $20 an hour comes out to $600. And that's just the most effective way if we need to create a schedule like this. And it'll just cut down the amount of time that you're spending on spreadsheets to become more efficient. Thanks.